This is Damian Macy, representing the Friends of the Marshall Public Library and our Oral History Project. Today is Wednesday, August the 31st of 2016, and I'm in the very comfortable room with Mary Irwin. She's a longtime resident and retired person from this area, and I think Mary probably has a lot of interesting things to tell us. And with that, Mary, you're on.
Okay. Mary Alice Irwin was born the first of 4 daughters to Raymond Cleo and Anna Schatz Lambden on a cold December night 10 miles south of Marshall, Illinois, in a little settlement called Choctaw. There were no good roads and automobiles were not common at all. The method of travel was horse and buggy. That was dependable in the darkest of night. It was time for me to come into this world, and after several hours of mother's pain, I did not want to leave my warm place and come out. Good old Dr. Weir said to my aunt, who was there with my mother to help her, "Get all the glass jars that you can find and fill them with very cold water. We're going to lose both this baby and mother the way things are going right now." They lined mother's body with the cold jars to stop her pain and give her a rest. Then they removed the jars and warmed her body. Dr. Weir said, "The baby will come out now." Dr. Weir had known just what to do. I came out into my new world and then cried all night long. When Dr. Weir thought everything was going all right, he went back to Marshall. It was midnight when he reached the courthouse. He was so tired and exhausted that later he reported my birth at midnight in the records. That was really right, because I was born at midnight, but it caused me problems later on. Aunt Sarah said that I was born on December the 28th, and Mother said, "Sarah, I know my baby was born on December 29th. When I needed my birth record to get into college or a job, I had to present evidence of my birth, and with what Mother had said. An old neighbor lady was able to give evidence of my birth, although she was not there, and it was accepted for my record."
What was the final date accepted then, the 27th or the 28th?
Well, now I've got that in here somewhere. Oh, I had to present evidence to prove what Mother said. I took Mother's side,
Okay,
not my aunt's.
so it was the 27th then?
No,
The 28th
29.
or 29th? Okay.
Let's see. Mother said I was born on December 28th. I know my baby was born on December 29. Then when I needed my birth record, that caused me a lot of trouble because the doctor had said midnight. That didn't go in the records. As I was growing up then, I'm ready to go on. As I was growing up, I helped Dad on the farm and was in the field driving my favorite team of horses. I loved those horses. They obeyed my commands. Like G and Paul, get up. With no car, the only way to go to grade school was to walk the muddy roads when it rained, or dusty roads when the weather was dry. Or Dad would take us on horseback when it snowed. When it came time for high school, Dad bought a new car, and I learned to drive. I drove the neighborhood young people who also wanted to go to high school in Marshall, which was a 10-mile trip.
Mary Alice, can I back up and say, what grade school did you go to?
Jackson.
Okay.
Jackson. Okay.
And that was a one-room A one-room school? Do you remember your teachers?
Oh, a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Are you wanting their names?
No, just if one of them really was an influence on your life or really made an impact, I guess.
I think maybe all of them did, because I was a little country kid. Okay. Not one more than the
Okay.
other. Now, where was I? When it came time for high school, Dad bought a new car, and I learned to drive. I drove the neighborhood young people who also wanted to go to high school in Marshall, which was a 10-mile trip. When the hills were covered with ice, I would stop at the bottom of the hill and say, "If anyone is afraid to ride up this slick hill with me, I'll wait for you at the top, and you can walk up the hill." No one ever wanted to walk those hills. Finally, high school was over, and it was time to think about college. I completed 2 years at Eastern Illinois in Charleston. Then I transferred to Indiana State in Terre Haute, Indiana. My first job was at Darwin, Illinois. I roomed with a Mrs. Paddock. Her store was next to my schoolyard, which was where I taught. I had all 8 grades. This was during the Great Depression. Supplies for the school were very low, and Mrs. Paddock helped me a lot. She gave me lots of wrapping paper for the children to use, and pencils were very, very few. I had 2 slates with slate pencils, and we had no blackboards. The county superintendent visited all schools. On one of his visits to Darwin, he asked me to come to Marshall and fill in a vacancy. I went to Marshall to the North Side School to teach in grade 5. For 2 years, I was in grade 5. Then I was asked to go to grade 6 at the North School, and that is where I taught for 35 years.
Yeah, it was. What year did you retire from teaching?
Oh,
That's all right. Because I went to the old North Side School too. And I had Georgie Connerton as a second grade teacher.
great.
Mrs. Venus was my first grade. Klein,
Irene
Klein was my third grade teacher, and Ethel Hutchison was fourth grade. And I think you were in the
They
school.
were all in the building.
I think we were in there about that time.
Well, how old are you now?
I'll be 78 in a couple weeks.
That doesn't touch my age.
But I went to, it would have been in the 1944 through about 1947.
It's
that
right
I
there.
was at the North School.
I never thought you would ask me that, but
That's all right.
I think you're close. The same teachers that you just mentioned, they were all in the building.
I think so.
Okay. Now let's see. Then I met Gordon Irwin at church in Marshall. We were soon married and were married for 61 beautiful years. We lived, am I going too fast for you?
No, that's fine. I'm not writing everything down, just a couple highlights.
Okay. We lived on his family farm near Auburn, Illinois, where we built a new home, and then later moved to Marshall in our retirement years. We always had a beautiful garden, and together we traveled the world: Ireland, South America, Europe, Alaska, Hawaii, and much of the good old United States. Our good traveling companions were Donnie and Carol Ann Warner. They went with us on many of our trips. Donnie is gone now, but Carol is a very dependable helper for me. I don't know what I would do without her. I don't have any family members close by. Well, years have gone by so fast, and now, at 93 years of age, I have many memories to fill my time. Stories of my life could fill a book, but I am unable to do that now. I still keep very busy at my current residence at Burnside's nursing home here in Marshall. I do enjoy this place. The people are friendly, the food is good, and there are plenty of activities to enjoy.
Now, I'm going to go back and fill in a few
Okay.
places. You mentioned traveling, and we love to travel also. Do you have a favorite place or one of those places you would really like to go back to?
Hawaii.
Hawaii? Okay.
Did you go to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing the hot lava, I'll tell you an experience. I'd never do this again. Okay. The road just went around the island. There was no interior road. We came to a spot where lava had closed the road, and there were cars and people there when we got there. And we thought that lava was all hardened. We learned. We started walking, and after a while, we saw ahead of us was red lava flowing into water. And we really did some thinking then, what we should be doing.
Is this where you ought to be, huh?
Anytime that they could have gone through, but we assumed it was hardened, all hardened, like it was where the cars were parked.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place to
I love it.
visit.
If it weren't for I wouldn't mind living there if it were not for the volcanoes. Hawaii was built with volcanic activity.
That's what's underground.
Right.
In your many years of teaching, did you always teach in that same age range of the 5th, 6th grade or so?
Well, I'll tell you something there. When I started to college,
Here, we'll move this.
I had always liked plants and animals. So my idea was to go as high as I could in zoology and biology and that kind of thing. But one of the requirements was that I go to a grade school and spend a day with grade school children. I did. I spent that day, and when the day was over, I said, oh, forget the higher up. Right here's what I want. And that's how I got into grade 5 and 6. My saying that I would go to grades 5 and 6 when the county superintendent came.
So all of your years then were in that pretty much that age range?
Yes, yes. And how different children are now.
My next question was going to be, all those years that you remember teaching and things have changed, would you care to go back to teaching that age grade range now?
No, I would not want to now. If I were younger, I would feel that I could handle the situation. But not at my age, 93 years of age.
What do you think has been one of the most significant changes in those years in the education field?
All right, something that worries me, really. Our young children even are sitting there with machines. Well, there are many countries that don't like our country.
Sure.
And if they were ever successful and overcame us in the future, then eventually our children had not learned the addition, subtraction, multiplication tables and common old things you use your head for.
Well, now some schools in some parts of the country tried to do away, or maybe did away with a while, with cursive writing.
Okay, that's another thing that's just another thing that bothers me. Right. If they can have a little machine here and punch a few keys and seem to be happy.
So you don't think that's the way to go,
No,
honestly?
I don't. No, if this were a peaceful world, but I can think ahead. And I read like North Korea doesn't like us. Many countries don't like our country. We seem to have been the top, at least they thought, and maybe too bossy or too something, I have no idea, but just don't like our country.
And it doesn't seem like that's in the way of changing either.
No.
They're improving. Mary, when you were young, did you have some hobbies or things that you like to do and maybe even continue those hobbies to today?
When I was young, did I have some hobbies? Okay. Every time we would have, when I was a young girl, every time we would have company for Sunday dinner like families used to, because families were pretty close then. Okay, I was always the teacher of a group. We kids would always play school, and I loved to do that. And that's what gave me the idea that I wanted to sometime become a teacher. Only I thought when I started at college that it was going to be higher in zoology and biology because I love plants and animals.
Did you have a subject, say, in high school that you really didn't like?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I tried to work hard at what was required. I believe I preferred, what was her name? Lillian Chambers, I think, was my teacher. And it was about plants and animals and that kind of thing.
When you were, let's say, at the North Side School in Marshall here, there was no bus service, there was no cafeteria service. How did all these things get handled? Did everyone walk to school? And how about lunchtime? Did everyone bring a sack of lunch?
Now for grade school, did I say, I think I said, we would have to walk the muddy roads. That's to grade school. And by the way, that was 1.25 miles there,
Oh, what?
and 1.25 miles home. But it didn't bother me.
Snow days or didn't make a
Well, on
difference?
snow
did it?
days, Dad would take us on a horse.
But you still had school, right?
Yes, we still had school. And the teacher would be rooming with some family in the community and walk to the schoolhouse and see that the fire was going on cold days and it was warm when the kids got there.
There was no refrigerated drinking fountain.
Oh, oh my land, there was a drinking well and a water bucket
Tin cup.
and a drinking cup, and everybody drank out of the same cup.
And no one got sick either, did they?
Right.
Big change.
Oh, has there been?
Now, I remember the old North Side School pretty well. And as I recall, there was a big central, when you came up the stairs, and then the rooms were off to the side, but there was a big cloakroom where kids kept their coats and everything before you went into the room.
Right.
And the blackboard.
And if there were head lice in the family, you had head lice on your coats. Oh dear. Maybe one hook and maybe 2 children had to hang their coats on the same hook. Oh.
Now, at that age group that you had, though, you didn't have to worry too much about kids trying to get boots on and get coats on and stuff, or losing mittens or things, did you?
Not in high school.
No, I mean in the 5th and 6th grade.
No, not really.
Okay.
There might have been, where I had to help get some boots and shoes for kids.
Did most of them have their homework when they came back to school?
Did what?
Did you have much homework for them to come back and bring back to school? Or did,
After they'd been ill and came back to school?
no, just in the 5th or 6th grade. Was they pretty well able to get all their work done at school, or did they have homework, home assignments?
Most of it was different than today. They did not carry packs on their backs. Mm-mm. There was no such thing. Well, yes, once in a while there would be homework to do. And if a child was ill, I would make out a form and take it to them and take their books to them. What we had done in the classroom, then they could work at home.
You as a teacher took the homework to them? Or their...
Yes. And some of it got done and some didn't. That's the way it went.
You mentioned your dad got a car and you were able to drive to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall what kind of car that was?
Oh dear. The first one I cannot remember, but I'm just so happy it was a car. And I thought it was pretty then, and it was. We kept it clean as we could with the muddy roads.
And the gasoline price, I'm sure, was a little different than it is today, too.
I should say so.
Do you recall what the price was per gallon?
Right now I can't,
Okay.
but I never worried. Dad no, I just never worried about the price of it.
Okay.
Dad finally reached the point where he could manage, and it was not as expensive as it is now.
When you went to Indiana State, did you live on the campus or did you go commute back and forth?
I drove back and forth.
Oh.
And Mildred Bush, Charlie Bush's wife,
Yes.
okay, she was teaching there. And I would ride with her quite often. I can still see her coming down the stairs, and I'd be waiting at the bottom of the stairs for her after my work was over. And her teaching day was finished.
So you say she was teaching at Indiana State?
At the college.
At the college? Okay. I guess I didn't realize she had taught over there.
Mm-hmm.
What, did she teach business, or do you know what she taught?
I couldn't tell you right now. I don't remember.
I believe here in Marshall she taught business, I think, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember I was asked, we were asked to write, I forgot what all the college teacher told us. And Mildred helped me an awful lot. And when I got done with her, it was just about like a college theme. But it was a lot of hard work. But it helped me a great deal.
Helped you get an A on it, I'll bet. You got a big A on it, probably.
I did. I was so happy. I wanted that paper work to keep it. Couldn't have it. They wanted to keep it. Why they wanted to keep it, I don't know. But I didn't get to keep it.
With your years at Eastern and then Indiana State, do you have some particularly fond memories of things that you liked about that period of time, or really clicks that were great memories?
I was so intrigued by so many things because I was a country kid and getting myself through. You know, that was years ago.
And that campus has changed so much and
Oh.
continues to evolve and change.
When I go through there now, it used to be at Indiana State one big basic building. And when I drive through there now, oh my, buildings all over the place. And there's one big building, it's where a beautiful flower garden was located. And I even included my parents to come. The buildings was not there. It was just flowers. I remember that. I invited my folks to come to Charleston. Maybe you wouldn't, if I mentioned flowers, you wouldn't know. Columbine was one that intrigued me. You know Columbine?
Sure. With the Indiana State, excuse me, I had a tickle. With Indiana State, you recall what year you graduated from there?
Oh, I wish you hadn't asked me that. Well, I did. It was kind of a slow process to reach my graduation, because back then you did not have to be to become a teacher as highly educated as. I would say I learned a lot, I knew a lot, but it was not required to be completely finished with your college before you started teaching. And I would be attending night classes, and then with Mildred Bush, she would go at work in the evening, and I would ride with her. And then Mildred Frazier was another one. We would ride. And by the way, Mildred was so helpful to me. When I was teaching, she was in the library, and when you have one grade, you don't have just children with all level of knowledge, not at all. You might have, I've had boys, 2 boys, who were way above grade 6. And so I never was the kind of teacher who wanted to say, okay, read pages 15 to 25, and then I'm going to ask you some questions in one book. I wanted them to have a variety of books to work with. And Mildred was so good, Frazier, to bring books. I had a big library in the back of the room.
Great.
And she was so good to bring books that I'd have them there for those children. And then there was one boy, no one was ever able to teach him to read. And I happened to have a college book that I had worked from, a big thick one, and it showed pictures of how to take parts of a telephone and put them together, parts of a radio, put it together, make it work. Well, I managed, I don't know now how I did it, but I did. And I had all kinds of parts for a radio. Just for kids to work with and help to learn. Those who could not learn to read. Okay, one day, this boy would, one boy in particular, would bring my college book to me and he would say, Mrs. Irwin, here's a picture of something I want to try. I think you've got it back on your table. Well, his head was working. Mm-hmm. So I just let him work back there. And one day I got a call on the school telephone. Mrs. Irwin, a boy, I just turned on my radio and a boy was talking. He said he went to our school. Now that's how radio was then. Simple. That he got it.
Do you know, did he continue into electronics in some way or not?
He was killed in an automobile wreck.
Oh, gosh.
That just broke my heart. Just broke my heart.
Have you been able to follow any of your students on through their careers and their paths?
Okay, do you know Jerry Forsyth?
Mm-hmm.
A millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's one.
Okay.
When I see him, and his dad, he lived north toward Pearsall, not one.
Mm-hmm.
And a big, beautiful homestead, white, on the right-hand side of the road as you go north. Well, Jerry has built a home back west of there. Mm-hmm. And when he was in the process of building, he was making a golf course. And my husband and I would drive through before they said you couldn't do it anymore. We would drive through and see. he would haul in dirt and make hills and bring in large trees and have them. And he made a reel for millionaires to play, I suppose, because I don't think any common golf player played on that. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah.
We've got so many mechanical things and modern conveniences and stuff around us. Mary, is there something that you just say, gosh, I just couldn't live without that?
Well, now maybe you can't follow this, I don't know. But that's meant a lot to me, and it still does. I have a small television sitting back there. And I have a radio over here. Well, my roommate that was there, she had so many, she had to have oxygen tanks and a potted chair and I don't know what all. And I felt so sorry for her that I gave a lot of my space to her, to help her. And then when she died, I was not sorry that I did. Even the upstairs, those two little doors up there. And I gave away my dresser top space to her. And the drawers there. Now, these things that you see are from my home.
I thought they probably were.
Mm-hmm. And I was doing with practically nothing to help her. But I'm not sorry that I did.
Yeah. So is there a modern convenience or something that you just say, that's just something I just couldn't do without that?
Oh, if I were in my home, which I still own,
Yeah.
a few houses down the street, I still own my own home. You said modern conveniences.
Yeah.
The modern stove,
Okay.
bigger TV, lots of things.
We're so dependent too on electricity that, you know,
Oh, yes.
if we didn't have it, a lot of things wouldn't exist that we're
Right.
involved
right.
in. Is there some world event that's taken place in your lifetime that really has an impact on your thought process, or that you really remember?
World event. How about wars?
That's a world event.
All the young men gone. And that's why I helped Dad so much, even when I was in high school. He had hired some of the young country fellows. And when they were gone, then that's where my love of my horses came in. I think I read about that, didn't I?
Did you have a pet or a riding horse, or were they just strictly work horses for the fields?
Well, no, I didn't have any pet. You said pet?
Well, I thought maybe you might have had a horse that you kind of took as a pet and then was able to ride that horse.
I want to tell you, there was not much horse riding time.
Right.
It was more working, because Dad had several acres to cover. And by the way, tractors were not common then. So those horses would, you know, maybe you don't know what I'm going to say. Gee, haw, get up, you know, that kind of thing. I loved those horses because they obeyed me and they seemed to like me.
And they're beasts of burden, but yet they still, I guess they still have a human side.
Oh, they do.
Well, Mary, if you were in you traveled quite a bit. If you're in Ireland, I think you said you'd been there.
Oh, yeah, I've got something to show you. Go ahead.
And you said, I'm from Marshall, Illinois. And someone from Ireland would say, where on earth is that? What would you tell them about Marshall and why it might be an interesting place to visit?
First of all, you start with my name. The name Irwin. Gordon Irwin. I-R-W-I, spelled with an I. Okay. the lady there, we stayed in a home. We ate in a home. We slept there. Bed and breakfast, it was called. She went to her, you can't imagine what this looked like. There was a chair in the corner of the room, I'll never forget that, with a sheet in front of it. And on top of it was stacked a whole bunch of papers. And there was a phone book. She went to that phone book and showed me how important the name IRWIN is. There were 3 whole pages, double column, of IRWIN. But now you're going to meet people who call their name Irwin, but it's ERWIN. And I learned the history of why that happened. England at one time had control of little Ireland. And if the people were from England, it's ERWIN. And we have some of them right around Marshall.
Yeah.
Well, not real close, but Irwin's ERWIN. Well, there's so many interesting things that just came up, just happened, you know. And oh, that picture that you see there.
Oh, yes.
When we went to Ireland, that group of people, well, I'm in the tan coat. Can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm there. And the rest of those are students that I had,
Oh.
grown people. And we did not plan it to go as a group. And by the way, George Mitchell, don't write this. George Mitchell and his daughter, 2 daughters, he just had 2, I think, were on that trip. And he's way back there, those men that you see way back there. We wanted Dr. George to be in the picture, but no, he didn't want to. He wanted just the students and the teacher. Well, I have them all named on the back. And the sad part about it, I think I figured it out this way. He knew that his one daughter was not well at all. Not well at all. So he wanted to be along on the trip. He gave up his work to get on that trip with her. And she did not have any bad spell, but she died not too long after that.
Okay. Yeah, he was quite a fixture in the community.
Hmm?
See, Dr. George was quite a fixture of the community.
Yes.
With your, come back to your travels in Ireland, did you get out to the Cliffs of Moher and the, say up north in the northern part of Ireland at all? Or?
We traveled so much that I can't remember all the things we saw. But I was so happy to see those kids. Oh, and we were invited to an old castle. I can't remember just what part it was in. But we were all there. It was just a great time.
So did you visit Blarney Castle?
Did I what?
Visit Blarney Castle?
Oh, Blarney, yes. Kiss the Blarney Stone?
Oh, yes, we did.
You did?
Yes.
That dirty thing? Oh. I would not have kissed that stone for...
Well, I got it close, but...
Now, Gordon was with the group. You lay on your back, and you have to hold on to 2 bars, and your head's way back. And he kissed that stone. I didn't want any part of it.
It was a miserable spiral stairs to get up there too. Really tricky.
A lot of steps.
Yeah.
A lot of steps. Oh, and we ate at the castle, and we were treated like queens and kings in our group.
This has been a delight visit. I really enjoyed it. And your teaching, my mother taught for 35 years. And it's just been a really enjoyable thing to visit with you. And remember, these are not these interviews are not necessarily for someone to listen to today or tomorrow, but out there in the future. Someone's going to read that and say, gee, I didn't know that about Mary Irwin.
Well, a lot of people did know that we were traveling, that Gordon and I were traveled. He loved to travel. And he had such a good head for knowing places in the world and where he wanted to go. And I was always willing just to go because I knew he knew it.
That sounds kind of like my wife. She says, well, wherever you say, we'll go there.
That's about the way it went.
Well, I've enjoyed this really very much, and I appreciate you taking the afternoon out to visit with us. And I appreciate you having all those facts and figures already for us today.
Will this help you any?
Yeah, I could put that with the tape or the recorder.
Tear those pages out.
Okay. But we really appreciate you participating.
Well,